What's happening, everybody, as we welcome you into the Take the North podcast, along with Dan Wiederer of the Chicago Tribune. I am Mark Grote of The Score, and I'm really just happy to see Dan Wiederer's smiling face as he took some time off, which is just kind of jarring to me because of all the content that you push out, whether writing in the Chicago Tribune or being on The Score or coaching your son's baseball team. So Dan, you deserved a break. I'm glad that you stopped, but it is really good to see your face, sir.
Always good to see you. Always good to talk to you, Mark, as we've talked about a little bit off the air. This is that time of year where you do your best to pull that plug out of the wall and disengage from all things NFL, all things Bears for a little while. But the football world doesn't slow down, very rarely stops. And so you have to find a way to kind of balance those things. That all said, it was really good to get out to New York. We'll share some highlights of the Cooperstown trip later in the pod, I'm sure. But yeah, it was a really, really, really cool father-son experience. I'll say that.
I am looking forward to that part of the Take the North podcast today. We will do that at the end of the podcast. We will hear about Dan's trip to Cooperstown and his coaching prowess and his son and everything that went into, because it's actually very, very cool. And I'm sure there's lots of people listening, especially if you're a father, or maybe a lot of our listeners played Little League ball and got to do like cool, monumental things. This would be monumental. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing about it. And yes, it's great. Like, the football season is something in terms of how bouncy it is from the second the Bears, like, just for our purposes, from the second that the Bears season ends, we're going into coach firing mode, then coach hiring mode, then get to know the coach mode, and then OTA mode and mini camp mode. And then just when it feels like it's never going to stop, it kind of does. Everything kind of comes to a halt. This is kind of interesting, like even from the Bears perspective. I have a reporter friend who has been trying to get a hold of the Bears and doing his due diligence. And specifically, he has been trying to get a hold of the chairman, George McCaskey, for a news story that he's working on. He writes stories about Lake Forest. And one of the PR people told my buddy, who is a reporter, that the Bears are having a wellness week this week for their employees, where everybody out or shut it down. If you want to come into the facility, that's fine, but you're probably going to need to do yoga or meditation, or you could walk with George around the entire premises. So my point is that this really is like, there's stuff going on, and we got stuff that we want to throw at you, but it is just a weird feeling to have this time of the year where it's really quiet and there's nothing, and everybody's going out of their way to make it nothing.
Yeah, I always applaud the employers who take that approach, as long as you don't take it to the extreme. Like, I think a forced reset is often good for everybody. I remember when Kevin Warren came in and became the president of the team, and he basically forced Ryan Poles to go on vacation. And Ryan said he took his boss's orders very seriously and went and played a bunch of golf and came back more refreshed and recharged and reset than he had been previously. And so I do think there's a lot of value of being able to do that. Yeah. And then, obviously every year some team still keeps itself in the headlines, right?
Yeah.
It finds a way to make news and have action and activity and things going on. And I think you and I are in agreement right now that it is the Pittsburgh Steelers that right now are having the summer that from a beat reporter's perspective, you'd call it the summer from hell.
Yeah. And like, we're going to talk about it, and other teams are going to be talking about it. And that is Mr. TJ Watt of the Pittsburgh Steelers holding out of Steelers activities due to a contract dispute, as he would like a contract extension. He is, TJ Watt, entering the final year of his current deal. He wants new money. That, of course, reflects his status as one of the top pass rushers in the league. The Steelers don't want to trade him, and are reportedly focused on extending his contract. But Dan, you and I have seen these things break down before.
It's very interesting because there's a lot of me that wants to do what I normally do in situations like this and just go Matumbo on any suggestion that TJ Watt would be somebody available to the Bears and just swat that into the third row and give them no, not today. But I lived the Khalil Mack thing, right, in 2018. So it always sticks in the back of your mind. These are very different circumstances, and we'll get more into it in a second. I once said that I would go down to a particular radio station with my shirt off if the Bears traded for Khalil Mack, thinking there was no chance in hell that they were going to make that move. And then they did it. And lo and behold, there's video and pictures somewhere of poor me and without my shirt on down on State Street.
I don't remember this. So this was obviously when you were on 1000. It's okay. We can say them.
I was in the glass window there on State Street across from the Chicago Theater without a shirt on for a while because I was like, there's no chance this is happening. And then it happened, as you remember, on Labor Day weekend of 2018. Here's a little bit of the difference with this scenario. The Bears are not in a position, in my opinion, to be paying two high-end pass rushers high-end money, right? And the investment in Montez Sweat was made not that long ago. And I think people forget that how much of a investment that was. TJ Watt, as you mentioned, final year of a 4-year, $112 million extension that he signed back in 2021. He's 30 years old. What you're going to have to do if you are interested in TJ Watt would be pay him, right? Like first you're going to have to pay the Steelers to get him with some form of trade compensation, which would be pretty rich. And then you're going to have to pay him, much like the Bears had to do with Mack. Remember, they gave Mack a record-setting deal at the time. And then Aaron Donald, I think, broke it 2 days later with the amount of money that defensive players had made and were making at that time. There's just the Bears don't have the readiness to go all in a championship or bust year, right? Like you're trying to build things to sustain things. And everybody will say, listen, the Mack trade obviously paid huge dividends immediately. And it was the catalyst of the year that you and I talk about with so much reverence and admiration, 2018, but nothing sustained, right? Nothing sustained after that. They gave up a lot of draft capital that they couldn't use. Mack's best season was his first season here. And so you have to have these things as a frame of reference as an organization to understand, okay, like, what's there for us? What are our immediate objectives? What are our long-term objectives? And how do we balance all of this for a guy that's probably going to command, I would guess, close to $40 million a year, right? In AAV. And that's where that edge rusher market is headed right now.
Yeah. I feel like, Dan, that, I mean, anything can happen, but it feels like the Bears are 1 year away from making moves like that. And again, there's a certain amount of urgency to this season for the Bears. And I think the biggest urgency is make sure you have a quarterback in Caleb Williams. Is the quarterback good? Does the quarterback have potential to be great? Those are the things that I think everybody needs to see before you start to go crazy with the roster. And they've obviously made some pretty serious improvements to the team, starting with the defensive line with Grady Jarrett. And we think, in theory, Dayo Odangbo.
Right. I mean, that's another investment right there. Yeah.
It's a serious investment. And I don't want to call it a project, but this is a guy that you are projecting on that they can get more of him than the Colts did in terms of getting to the quarterback, or they were serious when I asked Ryan Poles at the opening press conference for Dayo Odangbo, when I asked him, like, what about the sacks? And he invited me to watch the film. And, that maybe that is what they see. And maybe that's what they are expecting him to be, disruptive all over the line and stop the run and occasionally be schemed up to get to the quarterback. But obviously, I think we know, we've talked about this a million times, they need consistent pass rush. But those are two guys that they added of significance. Obviously, on the offensive line, Tooney, Dahlman, Jonah Jackson. So there have been real moves made towards winning, but the whoppers ain't coming until next year. I'd be shocked if that we even hear whispers of the Bears being involved. They're trying to mingle with the Steelers on TJ Watt, while, as we said, the Steelers are probably going to get this taken care of.
Yeah, right. And they've made it clear right now that they're not engaging in trade talks, that they don't want this to be a situation that in any way puts them in that position to have to do this. And so we'll see where it heads in Pittsburgh. If you go back to that 2018 Bears team, you're talking about Leonard Floyd being your other edge rusher across from him. He's on a rookie deal at that time, and the Bears are hoping he becomes something. And so they had a little bit of financial flexibility there with where Floyd was in his career. Akeem Hicks was, the other big dog up front in the middle of that defensive front that gave you teeth to your pass rush. So you're doing it a different way now. And again, when you've made investments in Sweat and the Dangbo, you're trying to get those investments to pay off before you start to spend more on the same position that you really in a matter of, what was it, like 16 months that they paid both of those guys pretty good money to rush the passer for them. And so those guys are going to have to rush the passer for them.
Yeah, I mean TJ Watt is what they need to stop us all from wondering if the Bears have a double-digit sack man. But yeah, for now, it's the guys that they paid. Not to mention, and I know it's defensive line in that defense, but they did draft a defensive lineman in the second round in Shamar Turner. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting to watch the Steelers and how they go about that. But my guess here, and I think Dan we're on the same page, just because of the information that is out there, that especially considering what the Steelers have been doing in this offseason, they clearly are all in. The other move is that the Steelers traded safety Minkah Fitzpatrick and a 2027 fifth-round pick to the Miami Dolphins for Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey's been splashing around this league every stop he goes to. It is something to behold. Also, tight end Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, right.
2027 seventh-round draft pick. What did you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, Jonnu Smith coming off a big year. Jalen Ramsey's been around for a long, long time, causing hell for opposing wide receivers. It just felt like a big splash move from a team that is determined to try to make something big happen in 2025. Obviously, the signing of Aaron Rodgers occurs earlier in the offseason. And so you've got a situation where you don't get a 41-year-old four-time MVP quarterback to just kind of tread water, right? Like you do it to go chase something. And so then this move gives you a little bit more momentum to go chase what you're trying to chase. And then obviously if you're able to get Watt to come down off this contract standoff, then you're positioned a little bit to take the swing, right? To get in the batter's box and take the big swing that Steelers fans, I think, are itching for, given how long it's been since they've had any sort of high level success. They're always hanging around. They're always 500 above. They're always knocking on the door of the playoffs. But it's been a long time since the Steelers have been playing deep into January or February. And it looks like that they're going to try to take that run this year with all the moves they've been making. And again, if you're somebody covering the Pittsburgh Steelers and you expected to have some time off here in late June and early July, sorry, your editor's calling and they need a couple stories from you.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I was like, obviously Jalen Ramsey is great. He plays a premium position in cornerback that is not safety, but I was surprised that they and obviously they had to include Minkah Fitzpatrick in it, but he felt
Good
like
player.
one of a really good to potentially great player who seemed like a staple there. The guy that they obviously drafted, he's a playmaker, all that stuff. So that just refortified what you're saying, that this Steelers team is not thinking about sustained success, man. They are thinking about the year 2025. Yeah. And you already mentioned Aaron Rodgers. So that's I have it's just wild to me. And we're going to talk about the Bears secondary here in a second. It's just crazy to me to see a franchise that has always been as patient as it is in the Pittsburgh Steelers and seemingly building correctly, acting desperately. And it might work out for them. Who knows? Maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be really good, but it reeks of desperate and all chips in for 2025. The future be damned.
Because it's early July, I don't have my Bears schedule in front of me, but I do know the Pittsburgh Steelers come to Soldier Field this year, right? And it'll probably come at a time, I think it's in November, where
late November, I think.
We're going to know a lot about how this experiment has started, and where it's headed and what they can do. So fun from afar to keep tabs on a team like this that's trying to move and shake and do the things that they're trying to do to be competitive on the highest level, not just on that level that makes everybody go, okay, good season. Like the okay, good season pat on the back may be good in places like Chicago, where we haven't had an okay, good season pat on the back in a while. But in Pittsburgh, I think right now it's let's aim for more. Let's raise the bar, see if we can clear it.
All right, I'm going through the schedule. Here it is. Sunday, November 23rd, Dan. Soldier Field. Right before. And you know what? See, now I'm looking at the schedule. There's a gauntlet right there. So here it is. You ready, Dan?
I'm so ready.
Didn't expect to do this, but we're doing it, man. Because guess what? This is the time to do things like this. The November 16th, that is a Sunday. The Bears will be at Minnesota at US Bank in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Then the next week, they host the Steelers. As we said, all that we're talking about is coming to Soldier Field. And then
Brotherly love, baby.
November 28th, you're right, Philadelphia. The Bears at Philadelphia, Lincoln Financial Field for that 3 p.m. game. It doesn't stop there. The Bears then at Green Bay on December 7th before they get a nice little break home against the Cleveland Browns. before they host the Green Bay Packers. So, wow, that Steelers time. November's going to be fun, baby.
Right, and you're right. It's go time. It's go time for everybody at that time of year where you're trying to figure out whether you truly belong in those Sunday night graphics of being in the playoff hunt, or if you're just a team that's kind of a joke add-on to the bottom of those lists. Look, we'll see what happens with the Steelers. We'll see them up close in November, and the Bears obviously have their own work to do to get themselves to a level of competition and competitiveness that we've been waiting for them to get to.
All right, Grote error. Yes. The Steelers did not draft Fitzpatrick. I did say that. The Dolphins did. My God. Yeah, that's right. And it was such a good move by the Steelers to do that, or it felt like. But yeah, he was traded to the Steelers in 2019. My bad. My error.
No apology necessary.
Okay. Let me ask you about this then, Dan. What about the Bears secondary this year? Are we as excited about the Bears secondary going into this season as we were last year? Because that was a position where we kind of said, they're fine, don't worry about it. That's going to be the strength of the team. And it was a pretty good secondary, but there were some obvious big issues last year. Tyreek Stevenson was an issue last year, not just the famous Washington game. His play took a step back for sure. Jaquan Brisker was a problem last year because he was not available, and the Bears were hurt, literally, it felt like, on the field without that guy being in there. Jalen Johnson is superb. We know that Kevin Byard is back up in that secondary with Jaquan Brisker. One thing I wonder, Dan, about the Bears secondary this year is, it's very possible the Bears have been transparent about, Tyreek Stevenson, and he's their guy, and he's their starter. But I do wonder, and not just because of the stuff from last year, Terrell Smith been getting more and more playing time in these games, and will they take a longer look at Terrell Smith and what they're doing at the cornerback positions going into this training camp?
So you asked if I was excited about the Bears secondary. That's not the adjective I would put on this. I'm very curious, and I'm very curious to see how Dennis Allen sees this team. And we got our training camp schedule earlier this week, which gave us the full lay of the land of when we're going to hear from coordinators, right? And so now you start to circle dates in your date book and okay, there are some people that we need to hear from on a regular basis in July and August that are going to teach us about this football team, Dennis Allen being one of them. And so getting his kind of lens on what this secondary is and should be is going to be fascinating, because we know he wants to play a lot more man coverage. We know he likes the things that Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson bring to the table in terms of being able to play more press man and allow a defense to be more aggressive with some corners that can hold their own on the outside. We've heard Dennis Allen tell us about some hybrid roles for Kyler Gordon, right? Like moving him around. So what does that look like through training camp? What does that look like when the regular season begins? So the curiosity about the front line of the depth chart. And then you mentioned guys like Terrell Smith. You mentioned a guy like Zay Frazier comes in as a rookie, and you're trying to figure out where does he fit both short-term and long-term? How can he compete for some sort of playing time? How can he be an answer if you deal with some injuries and some availability problems at any point during the season? And that's not to mention the back end, where I think we're all interested in seeing Jaquan Brisker play 12 consecutive games at some point, right? Like just right. Yeah. Like it's not like October 1st and he hasn't missed a snap and you go, oh, Jaquan Brisker's fine. Well, no, let's see him get toward that Steelers game without having missed any time. And so there's a lot of curiosity. I think that there's a level of potential in this secondary that you have to feel really good about if you're Al Harris, the secondary coach, if you're Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator, if you're Ben Johnson and you're trying to let that side of the ball propel you for a little while you get your offense up and running. But they do have plenty of questions to answer. And I think we've hit on almost a half dozen right there of just trying to figure out what does this look like when we get to the starting gates of the regular season.
Yeah, a lot of talent there, a lot of good parts. It just needs to be tightened up and it needs to be better organized. And yeah, I think Dennis Allen is the guy to do that, because we know he has a plan and we know that especially the cornerbacks' eyes are lighting up because of the man coverage that's going to take place. I do have a feeling, you mentioned Zay Frazier. I have a feeling he is going, I'm just going to pick it right now, and I'm sure we'll do some sort of episode like this. I'm going to predict that he's going to be one of the darlings of this training camp. I have no idea if he's even going to dress on Sundays, but the fact that he is like this big, tall guy that, 6'3", he was a 1-year starter last year at UTSA, did have 6 picks last year. He's long, he's strong. His quote was, I got it written down on my little board here that stood out to me way back when, Frazier saying, quote, "I'm tall as hell." So
you use that length, kid, right? Yeah.
Use it. So yes, the 5th round cornerback, Zay Frazier, is who I'm calling for, is going to have a great camp. Like I said, I don't know that he's going to take over anybody's spot. Maybe he plays into the rotation, but he's certainly just an interesting name in that secondary, along with some of the other peripheral guys that we know have made big contributions when guys were injured.
2 little notes on that front. The idea of us going through the grind of training camp and trying to figure out what means something and what doesn't. I think those crossover practices are going to be pretty enlightening to us on a lot of levels, particularly when you get into one-on-one battles where these guys can test themselves in a highly competitive environment. And then because the Bears are doing the crossovers, it then clears the stage in those preseason games a little bit for some of these guys, rookies, second-year guys that are trying to earn a role, to get on the stage and show what they're made of. And so that seems to be a platform where we'll learn a little bit about Zay Frazier when we get into August and we start playing some of those preseason games and seeing where that leads us, because that'll be a fun time of the year. The other thing is, you said you're predicting Zay Frazier to have a good camp. There was a running joke between Rich Campbell, Brad Biggs, and I. Anytime you talk to somebody that was new to the team and they gave you like a really fun 8 to 10 minute interview, and it was just like you felt energized leaving it, you would just turn around and go, "He's having a good camp. He's having a good camp."
Yeah, there will be. Well, look, it's going to be guys. It's got to be guys like that, because this is the time of the. Excuse me, my mic went off. That's the time that you get to do those stories, and you know that, Dan. You know that better than I do, because I don't. Obviously, I do that on the radio, but in print, it's a little bit different. You guys got to come up with, these fun stories in camp that don't necessarily pertain to anything that's going to be happening in week 7 of an NFL season. Because man, Kyle Monungai is going to get a lot of love during training camp.
No question. So let's spitball this.
All these guys
on the fly. A spitball for a August Take the North podcast staple, maybe once a week during the training camp period and deep into the preseason. And Adam Stanzinski can hold us to that. We just do a segment at the end of the week called "He's Having a Good Camp," and we just pick the guy that gave us the best interview, awesome. and we put a spotlight on that guy. He's having a good camp.
You know who would be the poster child for that on this Bears team? Dominique Robinson.
There you go.
Because every year there's somebody who, like, I think it was last year, I heard him on the Bears All Access show, the Joniak Thayer Jim Miller show. Oh, and I was sold, man. Like, oh, he's bigger, he's stronger. This is going to be the breakout. And when you see Dominique Robinson, you're like, yeah, that dude's a football player. And then no.
Well, what about your guy Shamar Turner, right? Like who
hell yeah,
came in the doors breathing fire, and that's in April. Now put him in August, and that guy's going to be really colorful and energized, and probably get off to a start where he's having a good camp.
That's hilarious. I was asked. I cheated on us, Dan. I went on another podcast. It was the CHSN podcast.
Thanks for self-reporting.
Yeah, I did. If you see something, say something. And I just said something. I think they asked me who my favorite players are on the team right now, and it was definitely Shamar Turner. I gave love to him in terms of like personality, like leave out the playing part for right now. It was Turner. I think I might have said Grady Jarrett, but I almost feel like that's too easy because
but just take that layup. Don't pass that layup.
I took the layup.
You on the block, just lay it in and say Grady Jarrett.
I said the B-side stuff for Take the North, man, not for other stray podcasts that I appear on.
Tyson Bagent, right? Like he'll be up on that list.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a little quarterback competition. I mean, we have
Keenum. He's going to have a good camp.
It's funny, like nobody has said there is a quarterback competition, but nobody has said there isn't. Am I right about that, Dan?
Yeah, right. No, for sure. I mean, I think that QB2 role is kind of up in the air right now, and that's going to be fluid through the early stages of camp.
Dan, I'm done talking about the Bears for today. Unless there's anything else that's really on your mind that you need to get off your chest here about the Bears on whatever date this is. What date are we anyway?
July
We're July
2nd right now as we're
Right.
recording. Yeah.
Right. July 4th
Approaching
is
the
coming
holiday.
right up. Yes.
No, I mean, there's stuff that can wait. We've got some time to fill before we get to the camp report day, which, by the way, is inside of 3 weeks now. Which that's where you kind of stare in the mirror and you go, "Oh God, 3 weeks until we pull the cars into 1920 Football Drive and we're off and running for good." But we got some things we can put on hold over the next couple of weeks and unpack them then.
We will. Here's why. I'm not trying to rush the Bears talk because our fans are like, no, what are you talking about? Don't talk. But stand by. Dan Wiederer, I wanted to save a little bit of time here for Coach Weedsy, who just went on the coolest ass trip that I would have loved. I would have crushed. Like the best I got to go was the old was it Fillin Stadium?
Oh, dude, you're reading my notes. It's written on my notes here. No, it's good because I literally brought that up last week. Is like when we were young, that was like baseball paradise, right? You're off a divan. There's a scoreboard. You can get a root beer float. There's actual bleachers. They're announcing your name. Yeah. Like that was it. Like in the 80s, Fillin Stadium was it, right?
I was so overwhelmed by that. It was just because of the greatness.
Yeah. This dude goes to a baseball complex. This dude being my son, my 12-year-old son. He goes to a baseball complex with 12 fields. Let me describe some of this place.
Yes.
12
You're at
fields.
Dan just got back from Cooperstown. Go ahead.
12 fields in the mountains of New York, elevated. The fields go down. You've got this unbelievable view, Grote. There's 8 turf fields, 4 grass and dirt fields. There's actually a bar at the top of the hill, a bar and grill. You can watch like 8 of the fields from up above. Like I one of the nights we had 2 programs there from Glenview. So our upper level program was playing the game. I didn't have to go sit in the bleachers to watch their game. I sat in the bar with a pretty stiff pour and could see the entire game. Like I was in the upper deck. Like,
wait, so you did all this with a buzz?
On top of that, inside the bar, they've got TVs. It's like Buffalo Wild Wings. Every single field, the games are on the TV, like you're watching Sunday Ticket on a Sunday, right? So that's that. That's more than Fillins, is what I'm telling you. I made a list of 5 like unbelievable things that happened during the week, but I'm going to start this with a Bears hook because it was probably in December, in the dog days of December, I was in the locker room at Haugh and I was talking to Cole Kmet, who went to Cooperstown when he was a 12-year-old baseball player. Remember, he went all the way to Notre Dame and was a really successful pitcher in college. And he said, oh man, like Cooperstown, that week there is one of the top 5 sports memories of my life. And I'm like, wait, hold up a second, right? Like you played football at Notre Dame. You've caught touchdown passes in the NFL. You were the special teams player of the week in London, right? Like, and at 12 years old, that was the most fun week of your athletic life, or one of the top 5. Like that's ridiculous to say. I get through this week and I understand what Cole's talking about because you've got 900 to 1,000 kids from 82 teams all staying in bunkhouses, right? So they're not just playing baseball, they're living together the whole week and like getting to know each other. Our kids had such a blast just meeting kids from California and Texas and Colorado. We beat 2 Colorado teams, by the way. So I did threaten
everybody beats
Colorado next year. So here I'm gonna go one by one with the top 5 in descending order. Crazy things that happened.
Sick. Let's hear it
this week. Number 5, we played a team from Costa Mesa. That's Southern California. And when the schedule for the tournament came out, we started kind of doing some research. Okay, what's this team about? What's that team about? Well, Costa Mesa at the time the schedule came out, our record was something. We don't travel as much as some of these Texas and California teams are. We had 9 wins. We were like 9-7-1 at the time. Well, they had more games won and more games played than the Dodgers when the schedule came out. They were like 48-26, and we're like, oh, we're gonna have our hands full with the Costa Mesa Sox. Yeah. So we play them. The boys knew going in it was going to be a buzzsaw, and thankfully they handled the buzzsaw well. And even better, they became like close friends with this Costa Mesa team, both before the game and after the game, to the point where these kids were going to watch each other's games, right? And this Costa Mesa team apparently is coached by Adam Kennedy, who used to be with the Angels. You may remember Adam Kennedy.
Yeah. Little Adam Kennedy. Yeah.
He coaches them. Apparently they're ranked like 25th in the country. And you're like, wow, this is like the world is big moment, right? Hey kids, this is what high-end 12U baseball looks like, right?
Wow.
We're going to get our teeth kicked in. We ended up losing the game 25-0, Grote. That's a run rule. That's a run rule by any stretch
Is
of the
that what we call it
imagination.
now? Slaughter has been removed from the lexicon.
They hit some bombs that may still be flying, and they pimped a few of them on their way across home plate. Then my son gets up in the first inning, and he's super excited to face him. And I was so proud of his mentality. He's like, man, I'm going to go face a kid that's throwing high 60s, low 70s here. Like, I can't wait to hit off him. Grote, first pitch of the at-bat, absolute laser up the middle.
Shit.
And you're like in the dugout, you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Center fielder grabs it on one bounce, throws an Ichiro gun to first and gets him out.
Oh no.
And you're just you're like, what is that? And my son's fast. And he comes back, he's like, Dad, I was running. I'm like, bro, like that's what this is this week, right? Like that's what you're gonna have to deal with.
That's wild, man. I was going to ask if your son was a catcher or something, man. Was he just plotting down to first?
No, I'll send you the video. You're going to be like, damn, like that's insane. That kid's got that kind of rocket on him at 12. All right. Number 4, there's a lot of kids on a lot of teams that are like, bigger than you or me. They're like 6'3", 270 pounds. And you're like, how are these kids doing this? We've got a picture of our second baseman, a real tiny kid, chatting this one giant kid up at second base. I said, Michael, what were you saying to him at second? He's like, I just kept telling him, I need to see your birth certificate. I need to see your birth certificate.
Kid's like, shut up, man. Shut up.
As I come to find out, as they're like walking around the complex later in the day, he would see him and be like, yo, Ryder, I still need to see that birth certificate. So this kid actually hit a line drive that almost took our pitcher's head off. Pitcher like had to get his glove up. It probably would have knocked him out. Got the glove up, knocked it down. And then the kid who hit this blast off him called timeout to go to the mound and hug him.
Wow. Oh, that's great, man.
It was one of those ones that melted all the moms and the dads. Were like, okay, relax a little bit. Nice moment. Good moment of sportsmanship.
Sportsmanship gone warm and fuzzy and momish. I love it.
Number 3 for you. All right. Yeah. Nico Horner. It was when you and I were hosting on the Score a couple weeks ago. He told us, like, don't worry, these games are going to start at all times, right? Remember, he told us that he played a game at 1 in the morning, and you're like, that can't be real. That's just an embellishment. Well, we were supposed to play on Thursday of last week, a 9 a.m. and a 9 p.m. game. And then it rained after the 9 a.m. game, and everything got pushed back. So our first pitch of the second game was 10:52. All right, 10:52 p.m. is our first pitch of that game. I'm thinking when it starts, like, this is going to be a disaster. One of the most fun games I've ever been a part of. The kids were so just enamored to be playing late. When it turned midnight, Grote, like the explosion in the dugout, they're like, hey, coach, is it midnight yet? I pulled out my phone. I'm like, it's 12:01. They're like, it's Friday. It's Friday. Just so
the novelty of it. Yeah.
Best we played all week was in that game. We won 18-4 against a team from Colorado, which is why we're moving the program to Colorado. But that game finishes. That game had 3 delays. Opposing catcher broke his thumb. They had to repair the turf for 15 minutes. The umpire got hit with a foul ball in the forearm. It was a disaster. It ends at 12:48. There was a game after us.
Wow. Oh my God. Did you guys stick around for the next game?
No. And I had one kid in the dugout. It's like 12:15, and he's sitting. He's kind of rocking back and forth, and he goes, "Hey, coach, are we going to eat again tonight?" I was like, Blake, it's 12:15. I don't know that there's much more on the menu for tonight. And I ran down to his dad. I'm like, I think Blake's a little hungry. So he ran to the concession stand, got him some Wheat Thins and Oreos. We got Blake reset, finished off that win.
Nice.
And they went right to bed.
That's beautiful.
All right, got 2 more for you. Number 2 is a little bit off color, and it's not real good. A program from Illinois might be in some hot water. We're going to find out about this. 12 fields out there. They all have cameras. There's a lot of lights. You shouldn't be doing anything that you shouldn't be doing. A couple of adults rumored to be father coaches of one of the teams here in Illinois. I don't know what they were doing, what they were drinking, or what else they were consuming. Decided to streak on the Camden Yards field at Cooperstown, run around the bases, and slide into home plate. Right? What? Big trouble, right? Like big trouble. Like,
wow.
Hard to wrap your brain around that one, right? Like a decision that would have been hard to make at 20, much less as a dad at a 12-year-old baseball tournament.
That is drunken alcoholic behavior.
That's a problem. That's a big problem. And the consequences of that could be like worse consequences than anything you could even imagine.
Jail time. Yeah.
Get ready for that story somewhere.
Okay. You're on the ground floor of that story, Dan.
My last number one moment from the weekend. Well, I'll give you a 1A first because I did cry one time, and I'm embarrassed. It was the morning after that we finished at 1 a.m. We had to turn around, come back to the park, got our butts kicked by a team from Louisiana. The Mandeville Revolution put it on us, and my son was a little upset after the game. And I was just having so much fun. And I was like, dude, like, don't worry about it. Like, you're in Cooperstown playing baseball. Like, this is so good. And he gave me a look. He was a little upset. And I just like, it was one of those things where you just realize like, this is a moment in time that is like passing fast. Right. Like,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh God, like, this is it. Like, you're 12 one time and we're here in this moment. And it all just kind of, I thought about my own dad who's not with us anymore. And I just like started gushing and I'm like, just go have lunch with your friends and like, let's just get reset. And he's looking at me like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, I just grounded out to end the game. And like, why are you bawling? Like a little kid, just go. We'll be fine. We'll get him tonight. So the last one here is I posted this photo onto social media, and our win in bracket play was a night game back on the same field that we won after midnight. And it ended 6th inning. We go in the last inning. It's tied at 5. We have a great inning at the plate, take a 3-run lead. Energy's high. They load the bases with 1 out. Kid hits a pretty good fly ball to center. Our center fielder makes a pretty nice play on it, makes a catch, hoses the tagging up runner from third at the plate. It's not a perfect throw. The catcher makes a great catch on it and dives and gets this guy on the shoulder. If you go over to my feed on X, you can see the moment of truth where the tag gets this kid on the shoulder.
Yeah.
He's like 1 inch from home plate with his sliding mitt to get there. And it is just game ending. He's out. Game ending eruption from the Glenview Patriots. It's a moment that like I've watched it 15 times on video. And I'm like, oh my God, I'll post that video sometime too, because it's embarrassing, the reaction. I'm going to give kudos to our 21-year-old head coach, Griffin Delaney, who was the first coach of our coaching staff to go to the runner who was laying face down at home plate and console him. Meanwhile, myself and Chris Konasek, our other dad coach, are high stepping and hugging and knocking kids over on the field like we just won the national championship.
And to that end, your emotions there when the waterworks were coming down, I'm thinking about your son, and guess what? It's going to take until he's a father to truly appreciate your stance, and maybe even. And I know that your son obviously appreciated what he was what this was, but the appreciation will grow, and he's going to really know you when he's older.
And listen, like we lost 6 times there. That's what happens. And when he got in the front door, my wife and daughter did not go on this trip with us. When he got in the door here and couldn't stop, like he was trying to recap 7 days of action from the time we left the house in like 4 minutes. And it was like, he couldn't take a breath and he was just a mile a minute. And I'm like, that's all I need to see. Like
that's all you need to see.
The greatest time in the world. And that's what this is all about.
Amen, man. Well, that is awesome. That's a great trip, and I envy it. I love that you got to be part of that, and your son did, and that is a lasting, real memory. So that's pretty. And I'm glad that you were able to also use the score to get some prep from the Cubs from Nico Horner. So that was beautiful too. I love that.
It actually helped me, right? I was like, oh, I was ready for this late start. Nico told me we were going to play late.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, this has been a blast. This has been good to have Mr. Wiederer back in full Bears form. And yeah, just because things are light, we'll still be right here with you on the Take the North podcast until things get really heavy, starting on July 22. Is that our report, Jay?
July 22.
July 22nd. We will all report. It'll be crazy. It'll be fun like it always is. So we thank everybody, as always, for watching and listening to the Take the North podcast. For Dan Wiederer, for Adam Studzinski, I am Mark Grote, saying have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your 4th of July. We love you, and we will bring you more Bears content next time here on the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.